Hello and welcome to Opening Bars. You may know this song, perhaps not from the original Fleetwood Mac recording on the Rumours album of 1977, but the more recent cover performed by the character of Santana in Season 2 of the television series Glee. Christine McVie is a wonderful songwriter, and Songbird certainly captivated me as a young budding piano player. Let's take a look at the harmonic analysis now. You can see that we are using the treble clef in the right hand and the bass clef in the left hand on a grand staff. We call it a grand staff because two separate staff lines are bound together by a brace. This is, of course, most common for two-handed piano music. There is one flat, so we are either in F major or D minor, and the time signature is 4/4. Beginning with the very first triad of three notes, we have an F, A, and C. These notes are all contained within an F major triad, and you can see that we have the fifth of the chord, the C, on the bottom, so this is in second inversion. Looking at the next chord, you can see right away that the layout of the chord on the lines and spaces of the staff is different than the previous one. Here we have the notes G, B flat, and it's flat because of the key signature, and D. With the third of this chord on the bottom in this layout, it's in first inversion. Taking a look at the second measure, you can see that these two chords mimic the layout of the very first chord of measure 1 in the way that they are laid out on the staff. So we should be able to instantly recognize that these triads are in second inversion. If we take the sum of the notes in that first triad of the second measure, then we have a C major triad, and the subsequent chord will be a B flat major triad. In the third measure, we once again go to a closed root position triad containing all of the notes in F major. The next instance contains all of the same notes, but you can see that they are rearranged, and of course you already know just by the way the notes are laid out that this is first inversion. The second to last measure contains a C major triad in second inversion, and again a B flat major triad in second inversion. You should be able to spot the similarity with measure 2. It's the same two chords in the same inversions, but transposed down an octave, and both of them resolve to an F major triad in root position. Well, it's pretty clear we are in F major. Looking at the left hand, you will notice that there are only two notes that are represented, an F, which is our tonic, and a C, which is our dominant or 5. They simply undulate back and forth and form a perfect cadence 5-1 at the end of these opening bars. You may also notice in the harmonic analysis that I haven't notated the second chords in each of these measures, and notice that I've indicated a PC underneath them. What I'm trying to indicate here is that the fundamental tonality remains firmly on 1 and 5, and that those triads in the right hand on beats 3 and 4 in each of those measures are what I call passing chords, meaning that they are non-chord notes to the fundamental note in the left hand. Their function is to get from one chord to another. These types of non-chord tones all have special names if they are used individually. Terms like passing notes, appoggiaturas, escape tones, neighboring notes, and suspensions. But in this particular case, I'm just collectively using them as a group and calling them a passing chord. Let's look at the rhythm. Now you can see a little bit more closely what your ears will tell you by listening to the recording, notably in the right hand. With all of the extra notes and ties, however, it is much easier to read if we take the bass note and break it out into quarters, so that you can clearly read the 4/4 time, and then you can also measure the movement of the right hand against the left hand more accurately. Always take note, when addressing syncopation passages, of where the chords sound on the primary beat division and where they are off the beat. Let's go ahead now and play as written here on the page, pulsing on quarter notes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you are having trouble with this method, you can break down the left hand even further into eighth notes, just like we did in the previous episode with jump. Let's go ahead and do that now, keeping the eighth notes even and using alternate fingers to play the notes themselves. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... If you take your time and break down the rhythms into their smallest common denominations, in this case eighth notes, you'll find that the syncopated rhythms are much more accessible. Practice slowly and only bring up to speed when you're able to retain a relaxed control. This is a great practice technique to use on all kinds of pieces. You'll also note that some accents have been placed on certain chords. This is taken right from Christine McVie's performance on the track. The effect is to strike those chords with more velocity so that they stand out more than the others around them. In this particular case, the entire chord will be accented, not just the upper note, as it doesn't represent a significant melody of any particular kind. Let's go ahead and try that now, again pulsing. Let's try quarter notes again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at a more detailed rendering of these opening bars. Well, you can certainly see that there is a lot more information here on this page than there was before. Don't let this deter you. If you take your time and take a close look, you'll recognize a lot of things that we've already seen on the previous 2 pages. The right hand, for the most part, is the same as we've seen before, except for a little grace note in measure 3 and the final measure. It's really the left hand that is the most significantly different. As you can see, it has been slightly arpeggiated, and I have also made extra notations to indicate where the rests are. This is certainly not the way that you would see the score written, but I've done it in this way so I can be very clear about when the notes actually sound and how the left hand and the right hand interact with each other. Watch out for the differences in the arpeggiation for measures 1 and 2, and then measure 3. If you look at measure 1, the FCF moves right away on the and of 1. But if you look at measure 3, the C waits an extra eighth, and it is heard right on beat 2. Let's just play the left hand alone right now, so you can hear that. Now here's measure 3. Let's go ahead and play those hands together now. Now that you know all of the notes, you can concentrate on advancing specific piano techniques. One skill that you can work on while practicing is to pulse in your head through the eighth notes that exist between the 2 hands to keep a continuous rhythmic unity. If you look at measure 3, there is movement on almost all eighth notes, so that while one voice is speaking, the other voice is not. So this creates a continuous pulse throughout. Here's measure 3. One suggestion to improve your overall musicianship would be to pay attention to the damper pedal, or as it's sometimes called, the sustain pedal. It's a particularly bad habit of many pianists to overuse this pedal, and it really ends up ruining the texture and the harmonic clarity. In fact, if you listen to Christine play it on the album, you can hear that she tends to leave the pedal sustained for the entire measure. Of course, it may also depend on the actual piano you're playing and in which performance space you're actually in, but for the most part, I think it is an unnecessary effect here. You can see in my notation that I am attempting to leave my fingers on the left hand, sustaining the arpeggios while I change the pedal when the chord changes from the primary chord through the passing chord. This way I feel I can keep the sonorities clear, As an example of what I mean, I'll play the first few measures both ways now, one with the damper pedal sustained throughout the entire bar, and one where I change it just as I move from one chord to another. And now, changing the damper pedal. I hope you enjoyed your lesson today. Remember, don't just play notes. Make music. Until next time, thanks for listening.